Your website is the mousetrap. Your content is the cheese. Welcome to Content Matters, tasty marketing ideas for your commute. Your hosts on the Sonic Adventure are Andy Crestodina of Orbit Media and Barry Feldman of Feldman Creative.
Welcome, everyone, to Content Matters. This is a conversation between myself, Andy Crestodina, and the one and only Barry Feldman. Hey there, Barry.
Hi.
So, episode 2. We've got a lot of momentum here. Can you feel it?
I can feel it, yeah. I think we're even ironing out the technical rough spots, so we'll just get better.
Here's what we do. It's a 20-minute podcast. 20 minutes is about the length of time it takes for someone to finish their morning commute. So we're going to help you make that commute useful by learning some content marketing, practical how-to tips. So it just should be direct and to the point, and each time we're going to focus on a theme. What's our theme this time, Barry?
We're going for headlines. Headlines matter. We're talking about, our show's called Content Matters, and we're going to talk about things that matter and the matters. And so why not headlines? Can there actually be anything more important in the world of content marketing?
Or a better person to talk to about it than you. You are the headline hacker, Barry. I think you have written some of the most shared and absorbed, consumed posts on the topic of headlines. I don't know anyone that knows more about this topic than you. You have how many years of writing experience? You're a vet. You're a veteran in this industry.
Do I have to answer that? Let's go with a nice round 25. But
25 years. How many headlines in that time?
Oh, you think I counted? I don't know. It's going to be more than 10,000.
More than me. My career total for marketing articles is somewhere in the 250 range. You have written it probably 10 times that. So here we go. Headlines matter. Open us up, Barry. Why are headlines important?
Why are headlines important? I have to come up that with, what could be more important than headlines? We are doing what we do as content marketers. Let's not think just inside of the marketing realm, but as content marketers in every walk of life, or in support of every business, particularly with online marketing, in a very noisy environment. So this is a war zone. Some people call it the attention economy. We are in an attention war. And so our purpose or our job is to, get a little slice of somebody's time, and they're going to be exposed to our headlines in so many ways. I mean, with more channels comes more ways, right? Mm-hmm. Like even the tweet we just shared to invite people to this blab is in a sense a headline. Mm-hmm. And so tweets are often headlines. Certainly subject lines represent a headline in terms of your email marketing. Whatever title you give your blog posts, whatever title you give any infographic, any piece of content, any page, any downloadable asset such as an ebook, it is the cornerstone, the crux of the decision that somebody makes that says, I have time for this or I don't.
Exactly.
Would I leave anything out? I mean, why would you say they matter?
Well, this is going to sound strange, but maybe it's just common sense. Articles are never shared. Articles are never clicked. Only headlines are shared. You can't share an article, not unless you copy the whole thing and put it into an email. Nobody ever shares articles on the internet, and nobody clicks on articles at all. The only thing that we share is the headline. The only thing that we click is the headline. When you understand that, I think that's the key to knowing just the gravity, the importance, the amount of effort that it's worth, right? This is a huge part of the huge success factor in any piece of content is what you call it. It's the headline. It's the cover of the book. Absolutely critical. It's a make or break, and a lot of content fails just because it didn't have a well-written headline.
Yeah, and it's often called titles too. So, I threw out a little bit of a list because I was talking about attention, and you either, mm-hmm. do or don't click, and you do or don't proceed to give that content marketer your time. Let's talk about some of the places where headlines matter most.
Yeah, I think this is it's important because it's not a headline is not it's not like a newspaper where the headline is one thing and it's a piece of text, it's written in ink and it appears above the article. Headlines aren't just headlines. It's a really confusing thing. I'm going to list some things that are all types of headlines and ways in which a headline can appear. A newsletter subject line, a web page title tag, an H1 header at the top of a page, a tweet, a post in Facebook or any other social network, which of these is the headline? They're all headlines, but they can be adapted for different purposes. Email subject lines, 100% psychology. That's all that matters there. But as a title tag, well, keywords matter there. The top of the header on the page, that's a combination of psychology and keyword. So, are we way over here on the robot side and talking mostly to, Google, or are we over here on the psychology side talking strictly to the person's, their reptilian brain? Headlines appear in many places and we can adapt them. In fact, I think we should adapt them based on where they appear, balancing out our different goals for that headline, sometimes ranking, sometimes click-through. Barry, am I emphasizing the SEO piece too much?
No, I think you can't emphasize the SEO piece too much if you're talking about the challenge being discoverability. You're as a content marketer, you're a stranger to somebody right now, and hopefully, a few seconds from now when they're on Google or their search engine of choice, they're no longer going to be a stranger. And so, you have to think about that. And you and I have talked about that so much. Of course, we can when we post this podcast, we can put some resources to some of the tips we give about thinking about keywords and SEO strategies as you write your headline. So I think that's a slice. And then you added, or I guess questioned yourself, am I concentrating on SEO too much? You probably can't, but certainly you write for readers. And so you write for them first. And, lucky for us, Google's evolved a lot in recent years. And so those two are becoming one and the same. There's certainly decisions we need to make that cater to how spiders crawl your website and so forth. And I think now, thanks to some of the content marketers and some of the people that have put forth tools like CoSchedule and what is it, the American Headline Analyzer. You know what I'm talking about?
Advanced Marketing Institute Emotional Headline Analyzer, I think it's called.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad. So I think we're thinking about like a realm number 3. They've introduced this idea of shareability, which is great because I don't know if it's great, based on those tools. Those tools are just helpful. But the idea is, how can I touch somebody and make it so that they're going to share this piece, which mostly is a headline. So 1, 2, 3, discoverability, readability, I guess, or attention provoking, and then shareability.
Yeah, and that's a great way to think about it because you're talking about all the different ways in which headlines can have an impact. There's different levels of correlation. Not everything that gets shared gets read, which is interesting, kind of controversial topic. People share stuff without reading it all the time. But those are really how we know that the headline worked. Did it draw in a visitor? Did it draw in a visitor from social? It was share-worthy. Did it draw in a visitor from search? It was rank-worthy. So that said, take us through. There's a ton of typical tips, right? Use a number, use a question. What are your basic templates or guidelines for crafting a headline that's going to get traction for us in one of these channels?
Well, I have not yet developed a list of templates because I don't think I can do a better job than the people that already have. John Morrow, who most people recognize to be one of the great headline writers and certainly one of the great bloggers, and he can be found at boostblogtraffic.com. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he wrote 52 headline hacks. So there's your templates. I mean, they're variations of those. But yeah, if you're looking for shortcuts, you go to headlines that work. And certainly while, you should be wary of being too committed or too lazy really to go only with a template, familiarize yourself with those. I often tell people that I'm trying to help out get started with headline writing to go to the checkout stand of their grocery store and grab a girl magazine, or a woman magazine, because the cover of Oprah or Cosmopolitan, these are the best headline writers in the world, Mm-hmm. And if you grab them, you don't even have to go to the grocery store. You could do a search on Google and look at the images and grab the last 10 copies of Cosmopolitan, and you're going to see some serious patterns. These people that know what they're doing, whose job it is to sell magazines, write the teasers that are headlines or they're facsimiles of the headlines inside that get you to pick up the magazine, buy it, and go home. And so, you're going to learn a lot of the tricks of the trades, and the templates, of course, will include, how-tos and sure. Lists and so forth. I don't think we'll have time to do it today, but I've written a infographic and a recent piece, actually, called your cheat sheet, your ultimate cheat sheet for writing headlines. And I take the word headlines and the first letter of each word, and I've made an acronym, and so it's actually a 9-letter cheat sheet where each of the letters in the word headlines is a tip for writing a great headline. And here's the best way to roll it all together in a very simple exercise if you're stuck. And most people, to some degree, are stuck when they start. I say, and this is a lesson really regurgitated from the first advertising course I ever took, get to a whiteboard, get to a piece of paper, get to your computer, and write down how to blank.
Yeah.
Fill in that blank. You're going to think through what promise you're going to make in your piece. Fill in that blank. You can't fill in that blank with a feature. You can't go how to battery life. You have to say how to have a phone you can depend on or extend your battery life. So you're forced to put a benefit in there, and then you get to work, maybe on your piece, maybe on your headline. But the challenge becomes, can I write a better one? So often you can't, and that's why how-to headlines, or the headline that starts with the words how-to, is the most popular headline writing style of all time.
Yeah, it answers a question. It solves a problem. The benefit, the specific benefit, and this is one of the keys for all headline writing, is to explain to people what the return will be on their investment for their attention. You're investing your attention and time. What do I get back from that? So the how-to thing makes that totally explicit, right? Clarity beats cleverness, or you would qualify that a bit, but generally true. Tell someone what they're going to get. They search for that problem. They're looking for the answer, and the how-to thing makes it very obvious right then. Another group that I think also gets nails the headline is not just the magazine editors, but the native advertising industry. They live and die based on headlines, right? They're putting their headlines into other people's content, and they're basically trying to, grab that visitor and buy that traffic by making that headline sticky. There's a place called I think it's nativeadvertising.org/leaderboard, where you can see the top performing native advertising headlines across the web in real time. And it's brutal. Like, you can just tell exactly how they're doing it. Every psychological trick is in that book, and you can see the use of numbers, the use of curiosity gaps, the use of clarity, or they call it the curiosity gap, right? It's when you give away too much. Barry, how are people using that?
Well, I think the best way to say, to explain that, there is, I think the scientist's name was Lowenstein who gave it that name, and he goes back decades, and I've seen Greg Ciotti write about him. The idea is you make an itch. So you're going to tell somebody the topic you're about to tackle, but you're not going to tell them so much that they understand, they don't need to click through, or they don't need to keep going. And so you create an itch, therefore, defined as curiosity, and a gap, and you create this uncomfortable feeling that we just have as human beings. Behavioralists would all agree that we don't like being not in the know. Okay. So, like, for instance, the 7 common mistakes blabcasters make, right? Well, if you're a blabcaster, as simple as that headline is, you can't live without with not knowing what those are. So that's the curiosity gap.
Yeah, or 7 common blab mistakes. Number 6 will blow your mind.
Yeah, well, that's the BuzzFeed version, right?
Right. Like, it'll only take me a second. Well, it does 2 things. It actually tells you that there's a low investment for your return, right? Oh, I can quickly glance through and see number 6.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the parenthetical, part 2 of the headline, and I think that is sort of usually, falls under the umbrella of a curiosity gap or itch creation.
Well, we have to move on in a second, but that's an excellent tip. The double headline. The headline plus the second headline. You can do it with parentheses, with a dash, with a colon. Here's my template for headlines: keyword, number. Website best practices, 6 tips for getting things done. Online competitive analysis, 11 ways to spy on your competitors. It's a double headline, and it's a way to double your odds of catching the visitor's attention for something. I wouldn't worry about going too long. Generally speaking, research shows that there's not really a disadvantage in most places for headlines that are longer. Of course, title tag gets truncated after 55 characters, and subject lines that are too long won't be visible on mobile inboxes. But I would encourage everyone to experiment with the double headline. Like you said, the parenthetical. Powerful tactic.
And if you are concerned about going too long, and you certainly should be for your title tag, then that tip is an awesome tip. If somebody's looking at it on their iPhone and it's truncated like crazy, and you got your keywords in there first, and it'll say it's 2 to 3 to 4 words followed by a colon, then at least you communicated the subject. And I was going to ask you, but I guess you answered it, because I would think that while I consider myself probably a writer first, certainly did a lot of writing before I would label myself a content marketer or an online marketer or a digital marketer, you're probably the other way around. And so it'd be interesting to hear, and in some ways you commented on that, but I know you work from a template, how a marketer turned writer tries to tackle the headlines. Does it usually come to you before you get going on a piece?
Well, I live and die based on search traffic, so I do a lot of keyword research as I begin writing. And when I start writing, I will choose combinations of phrases that include different words that are semantically linked to the article. So, for example, I wrote a 3,000-piece article about website footers. So website footer design was the one that covered both main key phrases, website footer and footer design. The next words I chose in my headline were based on the words that were semantically linked, such as checklist, best practices, guidelines. So my final title became something like website footer design, best practices with 27 examples. So I knew that those were all the words that were going to indicate my relevance to Google. My goal in that case, not just to get shared and clicked, but to be one of the top 10 pages on the internet for this topic. In that case, I was writing with a big focus on search engine rankings. And if there's nothing else about headlines, Barry, we've got just a few minutes left to do some mousetraps and cheese. What do you think?
We got just a few minutes. Boy, the time flies when you're blabbing with Andy Crestodina.
We're covering a lot, though. I think we're doing good. So here's our format. It's a quote from Barry that I have said it 1,000 times, I'm sure. I say it in almost every presentation I give. If your website was the mousetrap, the content's the cheese. It suits me well because I'm always talking about the two main goals in web marketing, getting traffic and converting visitors into leads. So it's the content, it's the marketing, it's the, that's how you attract people, that's the cheese. But the website itself has to convert visitors. It has to be effective at getting people to take action. So our segment here is about mousetraps and cheese. Maybe Barry will share with us one of his traffic building tips, and then I'll tell you something about building a better mousetrap, how to convert those visitors.
It's interesting because I guess there's been some variations of this content cheese thing, but once upon a time it was a headline. That's where you discovered it. That's how we know each other.
That's right.
Content Marketing Institute published a piece by me where the headline, this might not be exact, but it's going to have to be close enough. If your website your website is the mousetrap and your content is the cheese. So there you go. That's a headline that is a curiosity gap and an itch maker of the greatest order, right? It's even a template if you can pull it off. It's not the easiest template in the world, but if da-da-da-da, then da-da-da-da is certainly a good template you can try. All right. So my job is to discuss cheese element of it. And so we've talked a lot about, we've answered the question where they matter and how they matter. And I think the most important thing I can say here now is I hearken back. We discussed earlier how long I've been doing this. So I've been doing this long before, or at least a little bit before online marketing came along. And there was a saying in my advertising days that copywriters often threw around that said, nothing kills a great product faster than great advertising. And so now I think this applies to headlines. Nothing kills a content marketer faster than great headlines if you don't come through. Your headline is a promise. And so that's, in a way we had our tongue in cheeks. It's hard to call out BuzzFeed because they certainly know what they're doing, but they've sort of given birth to the conversation about clickbait. And so clickbait is bad. Right? It sounds good. I mean, it sounds good to get clicked, but clickbait means you did not fulfill the promise. And so the warning that I want to give to content marketers here is when you're ready to publish, when you feel good about your headline, you should have reviewed your piece and said, did I fulfill the promise that I just made? Because we don't just want one-time visitors. We want subscribers. We want prospects to become leads. We want leads to become customers. We want customers to become advocates of our product and tell people about it. And so we're looking for people that trust us. So when you write a headline and you make a promise, don't do that simply for the purposes of getting discovered and clicked once and once only. There's no trickery involved. Make sure that you come through and can tell yourself, with 100% confidence that I am not baiting anybody. I am delivering a promise, and then I'm delivering what I promised.
Exactly. And I'll follow that up with a mousetrap tip, so how to convert a higher percentage of people. We mentioned the footer earlier. The footer is like a safety net. Visitors who go all the way down to the bottom of the page, they really haven't found what they're looking for yet. So here's your chance to actually help them and catch them before they splat on the bottom of your webpage. Down there, Barry mentioned getting people to subscribe. That subscribe is a very important conversion to grow that list, because aside from your email list, every source of traffic is a company: Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Email is your direct communication with your audience. So how to grow your list in the footer, it's to have a little sign-up box that does more than this. Newsletter sign up, submit. That's a terrible call to action. That's no call to action. Those don't convert at all. If you want a good mousetrap that gets visitors to take action, that the footer is a good place to put that newsletter sign up, you can do it by just giving people a promise of what they're going to get. Tell them what you're going to send them and how often you're going to send it. So if your website in the footer just says newsletter sign up, submit, ask yourself, with using empathy, the greatest marketing skill, empathy, why would someone do that? That would be weird if someone did that. I'm not telling them what they're going to get, what the benefits are, how often they're going to get it. So put a sentence above your newsletter sign up in the footer that tells them something about what they can expect should they take that action.
That's a headline. Make a promise.
Make a promise. Promise them something before they splat on the floor of your website. Catch them as they fall down the page and hit the footer.
So when you go into your falsetto there for future reference, does that mean whatever follows is bad?
Yeah. Website sign up, submit. That's my mouse. Well, it's the mouse reading the, he's the mousetrap, but he's not going to get caught.
Oh,
okay, guys, very good. That's about it. What are we doing next time, Barry? Content Matters. The next episode will be. Yeah,
those balls flew around in the air like the previous interview you just did about having flexibility. But we've got some great timing and a great reason to talk about why research matters. And so we're going to talk about digging up data that applies to your audience and using it in your content.
Yep, looking forward to it. So thanks, everyone, for joining us for the second episode of Content Matters, and we will see you all next time.
It's gonna take a little time.